Welcome back to another episode. Today's topic is progress. Progress. Definitely want to make sure we're moving forward on our goals. We don't want to be standing standing still, trying to figure out what were we doing just a moment ago. No, we want to know we're actually making and advancing, or making progress toward our goals. Now, what is progress? Progress is that movement that you actually make toward your goals. If your goal's over there, doesn't really make much sense for you to go in that direction. You want to keep going in the direction where your goal actually is. Now, that's not always easy. So remember, I said progress is movement. So sometimes you're going to take a step toward your goals. Other times you're going to take a step sideways, and you might even take a step back. But you have to consider it all progress. Why? Because the actions that you take, they could move you closer to your goal. They could move you farther away from your goal. And when you actually do take those actions and you see the results, you have to fine tune what you should actually be doing. So, should you continue that action if it's getting you farther away from your goals? Or should you stop doing whatever that was and change your approach to actually get closer to your goal? So, give me an example. Anytime I browse in a store, it can be quite dangerous, especially if that store sells electronics, because I love electronics. I love how things actually work. So if I find a really good deal on something, like let's say it's a Lego set, right? I always love to build things. One of those cool Lego Mindstorm sets, right? I'm in the store, I'm looking at that, I'm like, man, this would be real fun to put together. But I could buy it, I could take it home, and I could focus on that for the next couple days to a week, and I could put it together and feel triumphant. But even though that gave me, let's say, enjoyment, I might have actually pushed my goals actually farther away or moved in the other direction. Why? Because the action that I actually performed doesn't line up with my goals. So anytime I'm in a store and I'm thinking of buying something, the first question I ask myself is this going to get me closer to my goal or farther away from my goal? And there's so many cool things that are out there, it can be very easy to get distracted, and that's not my goal. So I always ask myself that question: is this going to get me closer to my goal? And then usually, if I keep picking the actions to get me closer to my goal, they're going to allow me to get there. Now, most days may feel ordinary or average. That's something that sort of comes with the territory. But the days that stick out are truly going to be amazing. And so the whole idea is, if your average is kind of like a really low bar, you want to raise that bar, right? You want your average to be something that you have to essentially create a challenge for yourself or struggle with a little bit, so that you are getting, I guess, more progress towards your goals because you're pushing yourself harder. And if you make your average look like that, when you actually have one of those days that really sticks out, it's going to be truly amazing, because it's going to be something that's seemingly impossible that you actually accomplish, right? So that's why the average for you needs to be something that you make a struggle for yourself, that you make a challenge for yourself. Because if you don't, then those amazing days will be nice, but they won't be as nice as they could be, or as nice as your potential could actually take them to. So that's definitely something to consider. So, question for you: what does your average level at? Is your average day just kind of routine, and you do what you have to do, and you just can't wait to get home and go to bed? Or are you the type of person that, when you're working on something, you sacrifice a lot? I know myself, when I'm working on something and it really grabs my attention, I won't eat, I won't sleep, I won't be thinking about anything else until I actually accomplish that task. And that's just the way that I operate and that I roll. But everyone has that for them. My wife, for example, she does not operate the same way that I do in that capacity, but when it comes to food and cooking and sort of being around that environment, everything else that might, be a priority gets pushed off to the side, because that's where her passion is. And so usually a very easy way to find your passion is, what do you do that most folks would just simply give up in doing? And it's your passion that sort of just takes you and keeps taking you to that next level and that next notch, because that's what you love doing. So what do you outlast people at? And odds are, if it's something that you can think of or something that other folks have complimented you on, that you just keep doing no matter, other folks just dropping off left and right, that's probably your passion. That's probably, a strength that you actually need to stick with. So something I also wanted to incorporate with this lesson is, who are you? Believe it or not, I got this question from Frank McKinney. I was reviewing some of the notes and the lessons learned from the fireside chat that I went to a couple years back, and he read something interesting that was from Alice in Wonderland. And I think it's what the caterpillar asked Alice. It's the question of who are you, and the whole idea is that you are not your title, you are not your labels. There's a lot of things that you're not, and until you actually start asking the question, you're not really sure who you are. But when you actually start coming up with some ideas, you have to ask yourself, am I this? And then, if you are, put a checkbox next to it. If you're not, just leave it alone. But you're not your title, you're not your name, you're not your bank account, you're not many of the things that society labels you as. And so, man, if you're not all of those things, what are you really? And so, we just talked about your passion and kind of like what you do. Like you're in your niche, whatever those secrets that exist out there that really exist with you, that allow you to kind of take the world by storm. And that when you do it, you just put something there that no one else can touch. That's your niche, right? And sometimes it takes a long time to find our niche. Sometimes we need to go deep, deep, deep until we actually find a niche, and then we can actually start going wider. And in Frank McKinney's case, which I didn't realize until I heard the lesson the second time, was that he's built multi-million-dollar mansions, and to his career, he's built 44 houses that are in 12 square miles in Delray, Florida, right? So his niche is very specific and very small. He says he doesn't even put enough miles on his car to really do it justice, right? Just for the fact that his niche is where he lives, and the impact that he has there. So thinking about that, your niche doesn't need to be something that's huge or grand or anything. It could be right in your community, but it's something that you have an impact on. And once you actually find what that is, you might find that it's very small, but it's very specific, and it's specific to you. And so what you do and why you do it really correspond to your mission. And believe it or not, if I think about it of, who I am, I'm my mission. Because at the end of the day, when I'm no longer here, whatever I've done as far as laying the track for my mission and whatever progress I've made towards that, that's what's going to last. That's where someone else is going to pick up the reins and keep going. So that's what I would consider, who I actually am. So I'm not my name, I'm actually what I do, and I'm why I do it. So the story I'm going to share with you today deals with my son, Ethan, and his education. I've always believed in education being important. My parents always strive for the best for me, so I've strived for the best for my son. And so in order to do that, I had to figure out, well, what constitutes the best? And usually when I thought of school, I thought, okay, well, let me get my son to the best school possible. So, we've done a lot of research, we figured out, what works, what doesn't work. And my son had an opportunity, when we went for a tour for a STEM symposium at the Naismith School. Now, if you're not familiar with the Naismith School, it's a school in Northern Virginia. It's ranked probably one of the top 10 in the country for what they do and how they're actually able to do it. And it had the price tag to match. Price tag equivalent with many of the colleges and universities that you see for a year's tuition. And so before, I never thought in a million years that I would actually, have my son apply there. Because I looked at the price tag and I was like, I'm not even sure where that money is going to come from. It's like I'm not a magician. I don't have a rabbit in my hat, and I can't kind of just come up with that type of cash. But I saw it as an opportunity. And the reason that we actually decided to go for it was I thought of the learning lesson. It would not necessarily be for me, but it would be for my son. I've always had this idea that if something's impossible, it's like, do you really go after it, or do you kind of step back? And the way I looked at it is I looked at the consequences. I looked at worst case, we get rejected. My son didn't get in. So I was like, all right, well, that's the worst that could happen. And I looked at the best case is I could surprise myself by somehow magically finding a way for him to go. So knowing and recognizing through my own experiences of being able to overcome challenges that are seemingly impossible, we decided to go for it. So I actually put a 3-part series together, written articles about everything. But we took the leap of uncertainty. And in taking that leap, we understood what our consequences were, but we still decided to challenge and surprise ourselves, because sometimes when you challenge the impossible, you're going to get results that you didn't expect. And that can be something that it's that day that I just talked about that just sticks out and is truly amazing. So long story short, with my son applying to that program, We had to go through a lot of hoops. We had to do a lot of different things, a lot of different layers of applications and whatever else to complete and to fill out. And he actually got accepted, which was truly amazing. He was ecstatic. I was ecstatic. We went through all of that, and he knows that he got in. The disappointing news was with the financial aid and everything, associated with it, we didn't have enough to foot the bill, and there wasn't any financial aid that was going to step up to allow him to go. So that might seem like that's a setback, right? But we already talked about setbacks and comebacks. And the setback was knowing that, Ethan got into the school, which that put a big check in my box. That told me and that told him that he's just as good as anybody that actually goes there for the fact that he got in, right? But the setback being, okay, he can't actually go there. Like, we couldn't afford it. Like, there just wasn't enough money to make that happen. But something interesting about the whole process was it taught me that even though a school, creates an environment for your kids to learn, they don't learn everything that they need there. And so even though it had a nice facility, it had great teachers, it had a great environment, there were still some things that I consider life skills that I need my son to have that he wasn't even going to get there in the first place. So I took that as a sign of, even though we went through the experience and he could have gotten in, but he didn't, that the onus kind of falls on me to make sure that he gets what he needs in order to be successful. So I consider 3 things there that I'm going to actually leave this talk on. Those 3 things are mindset, finance, and negotiation. And as a result of recognizing those 3 things that my son wasn't even going to get in school, I've decided to offer those up for anyone who's actually interested. And so for each of those sites, for mindset, for finance, and for negotiation, created 3 websites around that you're more than welcome to come and visit. Take a look at some of the material that's being provided there, the resources that are available, and provide your feedback. I'd love to get feedback so we can actually improve those offerings. But my mission is to help my son and my family as much as I possibly can with their education. And if I could do the same thing for you, I'd be more than happy to. So I appreciate you tuning into this lesson. I hope you're achieving and maintaining progress for whatever your goals are. Don't be afraid to set that bar too high, because you definitely want to challenge yourself. So appreciate you tuning in, and happy to see you on the next episode. Bye.